The Texas Parks and Wildlife television series is funded in part by a grant from the Wildlife and Sport Fish Restoration Program. Through your purchases of hunting and fishing equipment and motorboat fuels, over $50 million in conservation efforts are funded in Texas each year. Additional support provided by Ram Trucks, built to serve. Coming up on Texas Parks and Wildlife.
The mission of the Design Lab is to try to increase ecological literacy, particularly the coastal environment.
It's smelly, it's physical, it's tough.
We get pooped on by seagulls, the birds are dive bombing us all afternoon.
I have never seen another wildlife management association that formed to improve habitat for a federally endangered species like the Houston toad.
Texas Parks and Wildlife, a television series for all outdoors.
What's up?
It's early summer, and these University of Texas students are preparing for a trip.
Is it open?
I think so. We've got 12 students and our professor.
The group is heading from Austin to the coast,
We're heading down to Galveston Island State Park.
but not for a break on the beach.
Today we're packing out for the first site visit.
These advanced architecture students are heading to Galveston to design and build. All anyone can say for sure is that by the end of this summer, a lot will be learned.
This is a project we have to do in a very short time, 10 weeks from the first day to the last day.
It will be an interesting summer for these students.
If they are successful, the end result will be a finished structure that the state park needs.
Welcome to Galveston Island State Park. Super excited that you're here. I'm a park interpreter. Essentially, I try to connect people with the natural resources that we have. We are almost an island within an island, surrounded on all sides by development.
Since Hurricane Ike in 2008, this park is operated with limited infrastructure until a redevelopment plan can be funded.
As we get out here, you might notice some algae on the ground. You see little bubbles?
One pressing need is a pavilion for educational programs.
So it's a nursery habitat for all the fish that we like.
A structure to provide some of the only shade on the park's bayside.
We have a lot of school groups that come out here. I have a lot of hurdles to get over in order to make them start to care about this place, to get them to some of those higher thoughts and higher concepts, yet to meet their basic needs.
The students are concentrating on working closely with their stakeholder, the park rangers.
This is the proposed site with an emphasis of orientation towards the water here.
We're going to try to get an idea of what it is that they want, and through that, they'll begin a design process.
Hit that corner, yeah.
They'll be camping very close to where they're going to build. It gets them immersed in the climate that they're going to be working within. The mission of the Design Lab is to try to increase ecological literacy, particularly the coastal environment.
How many renders are there going to be? 4?
Yeah.
Okay.
That's much better. It's been like Santa's little workshop in here.
What are you working on?
A lot of cardboard, a lot of Elmer's glue. We spend a lot of time at Hobby Lobby. Sweet. We're getting a master's in architecture, but we're getting a PhD in craft supplies.
We had a pretty long design process. Obviously, designing something with a group of 11 people, it's hard to come to consensus about things.
We floundered for about a week there to try to really find something we could all get behind. But that's great because that's how real world practice is, and it also ensures that we have a really good, strong idea. Given that it's a shade pavilion, we can test if it really does provide shade. I can hit apply, and we can see that at 10 a.m. We're getting dappled light through the structure.
These early models are design studies that they were doing individually. They're all meaningful in that they lead to something. That one design that they're actually now going to present.
It was a little bit Frankenstein-y for a little while, but we've got something good here. I think it's definitely come together as a collective idea.
You know, everything we're doing now, we're trying to minimize long-term maintenance. Things really get beaten up.
We have milestones that we have to hit, and the big milestone of the first half of the semester was getting the design and presenting that to the folks at the park.
That's the shoreline we're counting.
I like your orientation. I think it's very good. So your prevailing breeze is coming from the water.
The next milestone then is develop drawings and to get the technical folks with the Parks Division to approve that.
When you walk around the corner, it all kind of opens up in front of you. I just think that's a great idea.
We'll have about 2.5 to 3 weeks to actually put this thing together, so it's very fast track.
Fabricating components.
We've been getting a lot of welding practice and sweating a lot.
There's a team working solely on wood, a team working on mostly steel, so that allows us to work really quickly.
Theoretically, we're supposed to start this Friday. Making shade.
Yeah, a few setbacks. We had our professor take a little spill earlier, but he's getting sutured up, so I think he'll be good in a couple days.
I just hope he's all right.
Cut, going this way. We're figuring out how to load a lot of wood without a leader right now. Probably got 3 or 4 tons of wood. Not a cool day. It's, I don't know what it is, 100, 103.
Got it. Ay. Well, all right. We're kind of in limbo of like when we're actually gonna have the clearance to begin building. 1, 2, 3.
Just have to go and check all the boxes, make sure everything's good to go.
Found a way to get through all the procedural hurdles, and we're moving forward.
You know, it's right down to the wire. On the day we started construction is the day we got our approval. So all's well that ends well is what I say.
We lost a day on the front end, but for the most part, we are on track. A lot of dirt has been dug. Getting there. It was extremely hot the first couple days. I think it was record highs, but the human body is pretty resilient.
Woo!
We've been doing great. Great attitudes all around.
In that direction, yeah. What's your suggestion?
Our fearless leader is back on site. We couldn't be happier to have him.
I had a few stitches in my face, which set me back a few days, but the truth is this is such a good group. They're totally independent.
You have to essentially, in space, make a perfect square and determine perfect placements, which is surprisingly challenging to get it right, you know, especially if you don't do it every day. Measure 20 times, build once is kind of what we're going for.
I think we all were really excited today when all the rocks went into the wall. We were all like, wow, it actually does what we wanted to do, which was pretty exciting.
That's why the studio is so fantastic, because it bridges that gap between paper and real life.
You doing okay? I think you're doing great. All right.
Not to jinx anything, but it's been going really well.
What's your time on those? I'm just curious. 1? Okay.
We've had some sequencing things where we've had to kind of stop and pause and make sure we're not stepping on our own toes as we go, but I would say it's been surprisingly smooth.
This is our second to last cut. We've been getting a lot done despite the odds, and knock on wood, nothing else comes up.
The weather's been our biggest hang-up, I think.
Here comes the rain. Let's get some stuff put away.
Working in August, it's both a gift and a curse. Probably lost a few hours to summer rains, but you build that into the schedule knowing that's going to happen this time of year. We have had nothing but a great relationship with Texas Parks and Wildlife, and this is our 5th project. We've done 3 projects at Goose Island State Park down in the Rockport area, the fire circle for the youth nature interpreter there, a birding platform where the nature interpreter again uses that for her bay walks. We've done a project at Sea Rim, which is up at Port Arthur. It's a camping platform that's out in the wetlands that the only way you get to it's kayaking. People can rent for the weekend, and it's also used by biologists, bird counters to keep tabs on the health of that particular wetland. So all of these projects have something to do with the ocean environment, bay environment, where the public comes and learns something about the local ecology.
Here we are, it's like 95, 100% humidity. And we got the chain gang out here with rocks.
They're just masochists. They just wanted to do it.
I'd rather be moving rock than lifting louvers.
Yeah, yes. Those are probably 80 to 100 pounds depending on how soaking wet they are.
Oh yeah, oh yeah. It's almost there. It's been a very laborious undertaking, but we are on the tail end now, just the finishing touches, the fun part, really.
And repeat.
It's tough to work in these conditions for 12 hours a day. When you can see the finish line, it's a lot easier.
We're gonna finish, guys. I can't even describe the level of happiness that makes me feel.
When they put up the first 6 louvers, we were like, oh my God, we're standing on the deck and it's shaded. We did this.
1, 2, 3. Teamwork makes the dream work. All right, let's drill it.
We had some rough days in the beginning.
We really were questioning whether we would even be here right now.
It was pretty tough.
It's a heavy one?
I'm really happy about the result, though.
Because we're kind of wrapping it up, we're finally seeing what we've made come to life. I wish we could see the first group that's going to experience it.
I'm pretty happy. I'll come back sometime, but I'll be happy to drive over the bridge, headed back to Austin.
I will not feel guilty if I lay in bed all day tomorrow.
Last one. Amazing experience.
Nice work.
We're excited to be wrapping up today for sure.
How about this group shot?
I hope they're as satisfied with it as we are.
Y'all ready?
For us, it's a win,
1,
at least.
2, 3.
Dig in the shade, above and beyond. I love this crew. This is amazing. So, lessons learned?
Do this in November.
This place, I think, is going to be highly used, and of course, I think the shade's going to be really appreciated in the future.
Please consider this a personal invitation to come back and see how this place lives.
There isn't like a ribbon cutting ceremony or anything.
High five. Yes. Good game.
There will be some mild celebration and then some careful driving home because I think we'll all be very tired.
Good game. Yeah. America.
It's another day in the office for the Texas Parks and Wildlife Fisheries team in Rockport.
We tend to leave about 6. We have long days on the water. We get paid in sunrises and sunsets.
They're working the water to sample species in the bay. This information is used to manage sustainable populations of shrimp, crabs, and game fish.
Now, I've been working for Texas Parks and Wildlife for 31 years now. We sample year-round, so, no matter what the weather.
We're right here right now.
The crew will hit different sections of the bay, divided up into square mile segments.
And jump back in the channel right there.
Each month, the Corpus Christi Bay Ecosystem team collects 20 trawl samples in the bay and 16 trawl samples in the Gulf off Port Aransas.
Rain or shine or rough seas or calm seas, we have to go out regardless.
If the waves get big enough, everybody gets seasick. That's what we signed up for, yeah, I knew that going in.
After about an hour to get to the first stop, the team is ready for action.
35-2.
First step, collect water data. Next, it's time to set the trawl.
Trawls are large nets that we pull on the bay bottom in order to collect a sample of both finfish and shellfish. We collect this data the same way over long periods of time so that we can establish population trends over that time.
A sustainable shrimp industry depends on these numbers to ensure shrimp is not over-harvested. After a 10-minute circle around the site, it's time to pull in the catch.
I usually get anxious when the trawl's coming up because once you throw it out there, you really never know what you're going to catch.
We'll get sharks and rays, crabs and squid, a lot of squid.
Each species must be counted, measured, and recorded.
145, 137.
And then they're returned to the bay. And here's another tip of the trade.
No bananas on the boat. That's the big one.
It's an old sailor superstition that some think came from floating banana crates being associated with shipwrecks.
Something will break, the engine will break, or a fan belt will break and we won't be able to run the boat.
So no bananas, but several more hours of trawling, collecting, and counting.
It's smelly, it's physical, it's tough.
We get pooped on by seagulls, the birds are dive bombing us all afternoon.
But it's not for nothing.
We see that, we used to catch a lot of this species, but we're not seeing those anymore. I wonder what's going on with that.
Fishing and tourism, it's a big part of our economy here. It feels good to know that you're working to keep that going for future generations.
Cool fish today. Does anybody have a favorite fish or shark now?
Sometimes the team saves species for the local game wardens to use for educational events.
Pretty sharp teeth in there, huh? Some kids have never been fishing before, and this is their first time seeing a fish. Yeah. A lot of them will probably go back and tell their parents, hey, I got to hold a fish today, or I got to see shark teeth today. Who knows what kind of crab this is? Educating these kids at an early age, hopefully they'll understand that they need to protect that resource so they can have it when they get older.
That's why the coastal team continues its survey of the bay, one trawl at a time.
This project was funded in part by a grant from the Sport Fish Restoration Program.
Yes, over here we've got a lot of yopon. The yopon are invasive. When they catch fire, they light up like a firecracker.
It's another Neighbors Helping Neighbors workday for the members of the Alum Creek Wildlife Management Association.
Ta-da! Just like that.
Every couple of months, these Bastrop County residents get together to do conservation and habitat work on the property of another Alum Creek landowner.
Now that pine tree has some breathing room. Didn't even know it was here.
The pine forests around Bastrop County are ideal habitat for the Houston toad. Listed as an endangered species in 1970, these toads are currently on the brink of extinction. When the Alum Creek Wildlife Management Association first got started in 2008, its one and only goal was improving and increasing habitat for the Houston toad.
That is not the norm. The norm is landowners working together to improve habitat for white-tailed deer or turkey or quail. I have never seen another wildlife management association that formed to improve habitat for a federally endangered species like the Houston toad.
One of the ways Alum Creek members help improve habitat for the Houston toad is with brush control. Thinning yaupon and cedar opens up the understory, which leads to more plants on the ground, which in turn attracts the insects that the toads feed on. The members of Alum Creek own relatively small parcels of land. There are 132 properties in the group. The smallest is just 1 acre, the largest 880. Altogether, the association covers over 5,000 acres.
What they do on their individual properties collectively adds up to the impact that somebody that controlled all of that acreage as a single landowner would do, no matter how small their property is.
Pomegranates are real hardy here. It's got a bud.
When Judy Edwards bought her property in 1991, she could hear Houston toads calling from a nearby pond. 2 fires and 1 hurricane later, a lot has changed.
It's been 7 years, and I'm still stumbling over black stumps. That doesn't seem fair. So I had flooding, I had erosion, I still have issues with that. I realized how much good the trees were doing by stabilizing my soil. And then these are gabions, and I had a work day here.
Yeah, neighbors helping neighbors.
Right, right. They came over.
The Alum Creek members have volunteered for several work days at Judy's place, removing debris, building erosion controls, and planting trees.
It's more of a collective goal, and it's amazing how much 10 or 12 people can get done in one morning. Looks good to me.
These are 2.5-year-old seedlings that we planted. We'll have a forest here before long.
Matt and PJ Hilburn's property was not directly affected by the wildfires of 2011 and 2015, but the association's latest goal is one that they've fully embraced.
What could they do to protect their properties from suffering the similar loss that their neighbors did during the fire?
The road's right there, so we left a privacy hedge, and it's only like 6 foot thick and 6 foot high.
It's more than 6 foot high.
Well, it's grown a couple of foot since we trimmed it up.
Matt and PJ's 10 acres are mostly loblolly pines, but when they purchased the land, it was thick with yaupon and cedar. The yaupon is an oily plant that, left unchecked, creates a massive fire hazard.
And that's what we were wanting to do, is to get that out of the way to have fire mitigation, but also give the grasses a chance to grow. So you had the toad habitat a little bit better if they come back over here, and then replant all the loblolly pines.
The blue stems have come back, and the little seedlings are starting to come back. It's beautiful.
This one looks pretty scrawny for its height.
As the Alum Creek Wildlife Management Association continues to grow, the members will keep working on behalf of the endangered Houston toad. They'll continue to help restore the fragile lost pine forest. And most of all, they'll be there for each other, like good neighbors.
Okay, go to work.
This series is funded in part by a grant from the Wildlife and Sport Fish Restoration Program. Through your purchases of hunting and fishing equipment and motorboat fuels, over $50 million in conservation efforts are funded in Texas each year. Additional support provided by Ram Trucks, built to serve.